Well, hello and welcome everybody to this episode of the Reiki Lifestyle Podcast. I'm here, of course, with Colleen.
Hello. Hi, everyone.
Although I say, of course, I think maybe the last few Q&As you haven't been able to be at. So I think, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right.
You were in Japan, and then this is our June Q&A, and then in May you were teaching. So we're very glad to have you back.
I'm glad to be back.
And we're here with Danny, also a part of the Reiki Lifestyle team.
Hello, everybody. Nice to be here.
Hi, Danny.
Hi.
And we're actually here with 30 other people as well that are here to ask their questions live. You don't see them in the recording unless they talk, but I just thought I'd let you know we're here with a whole other group. So I'm just very glad to be in this circle today with everybody and to all of those who are listening later. So with announcements, I don't think we don't really have a ton going on in July as far as what we're teaching, teaching Reiki classes. We will have our distance Reiki share every Tuesday morning at 9:30 a.m. Pacific time. That's free and open to all levels. So even if you're just Reiki curious, or if you're a really, experienced teacher, all levels are welcome to attend that. It's pretty relaxed format. So we always give a talk about a Reiki subject or spiritual subject, real life subject. And we always do like a guided meditation or a guided Reiki journey, a guided Reiki meditation. Some people love to stay for the breakout rooms to give and receive Reiki with each other. But also we have a lot of people that just sign off after the first half. So you're welcome to come to any or all parts of that. If you need to come late or leave early, we have some people that join from work and just keep their video and audio off. So yeah, definitely check it out if you've been thinking about that. And also it's open to all lineages. So we'd love to see you there. We won't have one on Tuesday, July 4th. It's the first one that we have not done in 3 years. We've been there every single Tuesday, but we will not be doing it for the holiday. But we will be back Tuesday, July 11th. So we'd love to see you there. We do have classes in August. We have our Human Reiki 1 and 2 class in August, and then the Animal Reiki 1 and 2 and Animal Reiki Master are both in August as well. So I think that's kind of it for the announcements.
Maybe just also a quick announcement about the Reiki retreat in Sedona over Labor Day weekend, September 1st through 4th. You can go to reikiclasses.com and check out the whole retreat, everything about it. So that's one announcement. And then also another announcement is William Rand and I are teaching a 7-day class in Hana, Hawaii in November. And so if you want to know more about that class, go to reiki.org. Either one, you can also email us here, Colleen at reikilifestyle.com, and we can answer any questions about it or direct you with either of those. So I think that's everything.
Yeah, awesome.
Yep, that's good.
Okay, well, what we always like to do is start off our Q&As, kind of everything that we do here at Reiki Lifestyle with a Reiki guided meditation, Reiki guided invocation, or a Reiki guided journey, depending on what comes through. Again, they're all channeled from Colleen or I, so we never know what's going to happen either. It's just what Reiki and the Reiki guides kind of show us what is needed for us and everybody in our circle today. So I think Colleen will lead us in that, and then we'll get started with the questions.
Okay, sounds good. Caveat: if you are driving or doing something that you need to make sure you are staying very alert, then you may need to listen to the invocation later. Commonly, they go very deep, and that can mean a lot of things to a lot of people. Some people are very capable of just letting it all wash over them and stay focused on doing what they're doing. Other people, you may need to listen to it later. So
Taylor
Oh.
just said something in the chat. We just had a podcast recently.
Oh, that's right.
Taylor Norris. So go check it out. It's really funny, or it's really great podcast, really fun. But she had a great story about driving while Reiki and Reiki meditations. So definitely be conscious of that, no pun intended. Be conscious of that when you're driving and how that can affect you.
Well, originally when we were doing the podcast, and some of the decision making really actually came from the Reiki energy itself. But, we would have discussions about, should we just do like a short 3-minute thing? But then the Reiki energy always comes in with what is helpful to people listening, and including us. We're in that mix because it's so community oriented and channeled. So the Reiki energy is really what has determined that the invocations at the beginning of the podcast can be very deep. And so anyway, with all that said, we'll go ahead and get started. All right. So if you are able, you can close your eyes and get comfortable. Take some deep breaths and place your hands in Gasho. Your 2 thumbs at your heart. Breathe deeply and receive. As the light flows through your hands and into your heart, the gift of love. As the light travels through your hands and into your heart, expand your perceptions and your inner awareness to the space between your palms. And your fingertips touching. As the light flows through your hands from the highest heavens, the light flows into your breath and awakens the life force and vitality of Reiki from the world all around you, divine spiritual realms, the earth, awakening it within you. The gift of love. Breathe deeply and receive. And now lift your thumbs to your third eye, Reiji Ho, and back to your heart. Breathe deeply and receive as your intuition is revealed. And now place your hands comfortably on your body where you are guided. And throughout the invocation, move your hands whenever you feel guided as you receive self-Reiki. Breathe deeply as the power of love fills your breath, flowing through your hands, your breath, your body. And the power of love within you is revealed and wakes up, is highlighted in your own inner awareness and perceptions of yourself. Love within you ignites. And as you breathe in the light and the power of the divine mind, and your divine mind ignites and is awakened and revealed to you. Breathe deeply as the light flows all the way through your root chakra, through your earth star below your root chakra in the earth. And the life force of the earth rises through your earth star and your root chakra and flows all the way up through your crown and your soul star and beyond. And the life force of creation flows through your body as the life force of the earth flows through your body and ignites your spirit within you. And as you breathe in the light and the power of the divine heart. And your divine heart ignites. And it shines in front of you and behind you and on each side, above you, below you, and within you. And it's a beautiful, soft, and brilliant light. And your light and your spirit and your human spirit and your body are all one light in this breath right now. Sometimes, though, it can be hidden from your own view, your own light, your ability to hear your divine mind, recognize and know your divine heart and the power of love that you are. Sometimes those ways and worries of the world capture your attention. So breathe deeply, and as you breathe in the light through the power of love, pure consciousness, pure heart, and through the consciousness of creation and the earth, you begin to let go of those ways and worries of the world that have captured your attention. The cords and connectors to them, the layers that hide you from your own view. Breathe deeply now and receive. There's an urgency here that is releasing as life force and vitality flows through you, clarity of mind, stability. Breathe deeply as divine compassion and the authority of compassion flows in on your breath. Receive. As the tree of life fills your breath, the stability of the ground underneath you grows strongly. Your roots all the way around in a circle, connected deeply with the earth and the waters of the earth and the fire of the earth, the air and the electromagnetic fields of the earth, made of the earth. Your beautiful spirit and the life force of the earth. Here, you, and you belong here. And you open your heart and receive as this brilliant light fills your breath and your perceptions expand with your authentic intellect. Moving through all those outside layers of those ways and worries of the world as the light and power and authority of your authentic intellect fills your breath. Your body flows through every chakra. From your soul's knowledge to your human knowledge, your gifts and skills and talents and inner knowing. your authentic intellect of your spirit, the authentic intellect of your body, your human spirit and divine spirit, one consciousness. Allowing your mind to expand within you. All around you are beautiful beings of the light, the unseen, the spiritual beings of your heart, the enlightened ones of your heart, your soul family, sometimes in the spiritual realms, and where you are in the lifetimes between your lifetimes. And the enlightened ones of your heart are here. And you remember some of these beautiful beings of the light you have known for eons. And they're right here with you. Their light shines on you and yours shines on them. Beautiful connection. And here on the earth, all around you, the beauty of this earth. Just letting go of some of those ways and worries of the world. Receiving the beauty, receiving joy, reflecting in the glimmers around you that capture your attention. Those glimmers of curiosity and fascination and beauty and interest. Breathe deeply and receive. Your authentic intellect is revealed. Receiving your imagination. Your intuition. Receiving your instincts. Your senses. Heightened perceptions. Possibilities. Ideas. You see your authentic intellect is full and awake and awakening, yours and how it's all meaningful to you. Your inner truth revealed. Breathe deeply and receive and go within and listen to you. As you listen to you, invite clarity, innovation, curiosity, possibility, manifestation, conscious choice. Sometimes you're just wandering and wondering. And sometimes the wandering and the wondering leads to choice of action, sometimes inaction, sometimes just the enjoyment of the wandering and wondering and the curiosities to think about. And so you receive this clarity and discernment as the light travels in on your breath, awakens your authentic intellect so you can hear you. Your inner voice is for you first. How you share it with others is a choice. So breathe deeply now as you receive light and the power of the divine mind, divine compassion of Nosa, awakening and revealing your authentic intellect. And as it is invited to continue through insight, glimmers, wandering and wondering, knowing, sometimes action, innovation, inventiveness. So look inside now and say thank you to you. All these beautiful beings of the light that are here with all of us as we say thank you to each other in our divinely ordered circle, those who are here live today and those who listen later. Thank you. As you listen to you from the light of the earth, the light of creation, and the light within, we say thank you to each other. Our circle's always divinely ordered. We're all meant to be here, empowering that authentic intellect, each within our own lives. We say thank you to the enlightened ones that join us, beautiful and sacred ones of your heart, our brothers and sisters in the light, the angels and archangels, divine animal kingdom, the enlightened ones of the heart. Thank you. And we say thank you to the teachers who have come before us to bring us these ways since ancient times, and the descendants who come after. We are so very honored to be here today in these discussions about Reiki and life and your own inner voice for you. Thank you. And so it is. Okay, so I think we keep the recording going, Robyn. Okay, so coming back quickly for those of you that are listening, those of you that are listening and not ready to come back quickly, take your time coming back. It's always so interesting what shows up.
Very true.
Mhm. Well, authentic intellect, it actually is interesting how this builds on. I talked about it. I'm not sure if we'd started the recording yet, but I was talking about one of the sessions I had this morning and how powerful the invocation was. And then we kind of laughed and said, well, let's build on that. And this one was very different, but it did build on it because the one this morning was very focused on the awareness of all the external distractions going on right now and the ways to be distracted. And then it did go into that awareness of what is your authentic voice and authentic intellect as you navigate through, all the external and then very real personal things that, each of us go through too. And so not everything is just a distraction. And sometimes, obviously the things that we have to think about or feel passionate about are because we need to take action or make conscious choices with it. And we need to have clarity around it. And so really helping so that outside noise that can come at you. What was shown in the session earlier is how sometimes that outside noise feels like it actually sends cords that attach. And then also sometimes we send our own cords out that attach. And how when you have that layer of Reiki energy around you, those cords have to move through that filter from coming towards you and going out so that you can be within your space, your authentic intellect is present. And by that, that's like, so multidimensional. I mean, as I was saying, the list of words, it could have kept going. I had to kind of call it back in because I was aware of all the questions that we want to talk about today. But that list of what our authentic intellect really is very long. And so how do we have clarity so we can hear ourselves in the mix of everything going on? And so one of the things that, was really shown in the spirit reveal part of the invocation is that awareness of how those layers caused by the ways and worries of the world cover us from our own view. And it's hard to think. It's hard to be in what's my authentic intellect when something grabs you or the cords connect. So how that Reiki energy is all the way around you in a field like a filter, and that's when we're letting that Reiki in front of us, behind us, on each side, above us, below us. And in the invocation, it's coming from above and below and within, and, we're breathing it in and all around us. So anyway, it's having the ability to stay within your own curiosity, solutions, resources, your own imagination, instincts, intuition, so you can determine where your choices are and you can determine what your actions are from a place of clarity. So anyway, that's what it felt like how they tied together today.
Awesome. Okay, well, our first question is from Joe.
Oh, hi. Thanks. Yeah, I had mentioned this, Colleen, I think in one of the Tuesday broadcasts about Reiki and dealing with fundamentalist thinkers, what we do in situations. I know, I've read everything in the Reiki magazine. Williams talked about how Reiki can enhance your religion. Of course, there's all degrees of attachment to religion. We're talking about the average churchgoer is usually open to listening to something about this, where a person who is very restricted, narrow fundamentalist beliefs, it's very hard to sort of like make headway. And I don't go out of my way, of course, to advocate Reiki to those people. I mean, I think we've all learned in the past 3 years, especially with how the world has gotten polarized, that we have more power in what we don't say, no matter what the issue is. But sometimes you can talk with somebody and you discover that you bring up Reiki and the horse is out of the barn. You discover that there's like a fundamentalist and the horse got let out of the barn. And this is not a problem that really plagues me. I thought maybe just for the benefit of our listeners and watchers today who might like also deal with this. It's like, I think the question is once the horse is out of the barn, what do you do to stay in your higher self? I don't think there's going to be like any conversion to your way of thinking with this issue, but what do you do, once the horse is out of the barn and you discover and they go off on this tangent? I did transcendental meditation in 1976, and I know the same mentality. They said the mantra was calling on negative entities. It's that same way of looking at it. It's the same, a new generation who thinks that way. So I just thought maybe you might have ideas on what you might do to stay in your higher self if you accidentally talk about Reiki with fundamentalists.
Well, can that encompass everything?
We can go on to the next question. We can skip my.
No. It's a great
No,
question.
it's a really important question.
Yeah,
and
like you said, Joe, it's a common question and a common experience that many people have, and especially I think, and I'll let you answer, Colleen, but I think one of the big places for it is maybe it's a stranger, which is easier, but your family is a very common experience, and that can be a really hard situation to deal with in the same line of things. So yeah, go ahead, Colleen.
Well, and also, Robyn, if you want to keep talking, because you have experience with this as well. So it's interesting, Joe, that you bring that up, because we've been talking about this subject and how much we want to talk about this subject. Because even in thinking about like who is often part of our community in Reiki are people who have either left the church or are trying to find a method of spirituality that gives them access to their own inner truth, and can be everywhere from the beginning of the process, afraid of the process, to having moved through that process. I myself have that experience, and I recently saw a whole meme on the different generations and the percentage of those generations that were going to church. And I do want to also clarify that I in no way am trying to criticize the church. I know that's not your meaning in the question, but we do often in, working with, and I would say Reiki is just one pathway to finding our own path to spirituality. And I, for one, would be really happy to find an outlet where, that way, a spiritual outlet or a church. I never found one that wasn't the one right way and didn't have a lot of judgment, which for me was my criteria of what I was looking for in a spiritual path. But when you look at the statistics of the generations, I can pull that up really quickly. I thought it was a fascinating interest. So born before 1928, 56. Oh, hold on. It's going really fast. Before 1928, 56% of the people went to church. Those born, the boomers were 44%. Gen X is I'm sorry, it's going really fast. It's a video. Anyway, let's see here. 56%.
I
Gen
think
X is 27%, millennials 18%, and Gen Z are potentially, they're not there yet, but potentially the first generation that is not going to church very often. So we see a trend, and in my own experience, I believe that the trend is because people are looking for a pathway to their own inner truth and their own inner spirituality and the allowance for that. Now, that may be because in this community, I think there's an overwhelming percentage of people that are drawn to it for that reason, where Reiki energy directly takes you into your inner truth. As far as how I explain this, because I've actually had it happen in my family with estrangement because of my path being different. And I've also had it in our actual where we live community and dealt with it there, friends community, as a parent of my children. Robyn and I did a podcast years ago about her growing up with alternative parents in a small conservative town, and for that exact thing. So it is a common experience, and it's one that we've gone through too. So I kind of digressed in going into the whole direction about, people leaving the church and how does that work. And I think I bring that up because I think it's part of the change of this age. And as communities and churches start that trend more towards really letting people find their own spiritual path and their own spiritual truth, the trend will swing again. It's going to go different ways. I have not had success in the moment in having conversations with people who are going to really come from it from a very, I don't even know the word to use, oppositional way, oppositional viewpoint. But I have had success over time. And so I would say over time in my family, we all get along great around it all now, but that was a years-long process. And now it's like not a problem at all. And a lot of it is I just don't really talk about it, just like politics, and some of the areas in politics. It's like, yeah, just plain, it's just probably not a subject where we may have a meeting of the minds. And I think the other thing I would add to that, especially from the context of your authentic intellect, where you can hear your own voice around it, because everyone has their own way that they're going to manage this situation, is really bringing in that Reiki energy. If you need to have an answer in the moment, to let it come in. And so you can answer it from your own authentic self rather than a reaction. I'm still human, so the reactions can still show up, but mostly I try to get into that place so that my voice is my voice. But this is also what I mean by your inner voice is for you first. And there's a lot of times I just choose to not engage with the subject, with people. And I'm not suppressing my voice. I'm just choosing the freedom of not responding. So a lot of times I will just say something like, oh, thank you so much for sharing how, your perspective. And I'm not acquiescing. That to me is freedom. Like I get to choose where I say what I say and if I say it. And so that took me probably the longest of it all, because, did I feel responsible to say things? I'm like, no. So over time, particularly in family, and a lot of it is too, we're all older now, and have worked through some of this stuff on each of our own levels, and we have love for each other, so that superseded everything. But yeah, anyway.
Sometimes I can, ameliorate the situation. Usually they're nonplussed if I say that it's being used as an adjunct for chemotherapy in hospitals. They usually don't know how to respond to that, because that's like something in the system, and it gives it a little more credibility. So I have wiggled my way out of it, saying something like that, because like you say, when you're in the moment, yes, you wanted to get your Reiki for to be advised and to get into your higher self. But of course, that doesn't happen immediately when you're under the gun. You have to sort of like just come up with something, and I usually can wiggle a little bit out of that. But as I said, I don't go around personally preaching to fundamentalists about this, or, it just sometimes it just happens accidentally. You don't know they're a fundamentalist, and you make the comment, and the horse gets out of the barn, like I sang, and then, oh, what do you do now?
Yeah. Robyn, it looks like you had stuff you wanted to add.
Well, fortunately for me, I don't have really this issue with family members. We're all either Gen X or millennials. So like you were saying, sharing those, statistics, that's not an issue, although that hasn't been true for other things, where there's a little bit of a fundamentalist viewpoint around it. But with people, people ask me what I do around here. And I actually had this happen the other day. They're like, what do you do? And I'm like, oh, a stress reduction, energy medicine thing. And sometimes they're not going to push further, and other times they will. And I always wonder, I'm like, when I'm asked that question, where's this going to go? I literally had this the other day. And luckily enough, in this interaction, the person was like, oh my gosh, my wife is into all of that stuff. I'd love to have you talk to her. So there's that. Other times I've had it happen to me where it was just a totally offhanded comment. And I said, something along the lines of like, well, that's karma. And the person was like, I don't believe in that. Jesus is the only way to blah, blah, blah. And I was like, all right, you do you, boo. So, honestly, Joe, in the case, I think going to the more medically versed version is a good way to go. You could also research Reiki and Christianity if you feel like it is your call to be able to go into that discourse with people. I think you can just even Google it, and it's on reiki.org or search reiki.org. And there's a lot of resources versus things like that. Each person, as Colleen said, is going to be called to a different way in how they talk about it, share about it. If you want to be, well researched in it, it gets to be your choice and how you respond to these. And all of us are going to have different ways that we're going to respond to these.
I still have a little fun when the fundamentalists get on Facebook and they're asking for prayers for somebody or something. I still have enough ego and personality to say, sending Reiki.
I know you do, Joe. Anybody that's friends with you on Facebook knows that. Right. So that was kind of my point, is that like, yeah, maybe Colleen and I don't engage because that's our boundary. And then at the same time, because that's what that is, this withdrawing is about my own authority to feel comfortable enough that I don't have to respond to you. Honestly, it's just not worth my energy. And I mean, like, not my energy, like talking to you. It's not worth any of my sovereign energy to engage. And I'll just say, okay, either not respond or thank you, I wish you well. But not of all of us are going to feel that way. And that's okay too, because there are people, and you may be a person that is okay in engaging with this. Unfortunately, in our current society, we have become somewhat unskilled in discourse. So the way the conversation might progress might, become a little more intense than maybe you set out to do. But you also get to have that choice. I would just say, if you are, I would research it from a credible source, and have your sources, so you can cite your sources in all different ways. And again, when it's just me, I am just not going to engage with people. I just don't. That is not something that I need any sort of, when it comes to my work and this work and Reiki energy and energy healing. And I don't need any sort of, you know, I can't think of the word right now, but I don't need any
Acceptance.
acceptance from that place. It's easy with strangers and community members. It's easier for that than with family members. So, going back to what Colleen was saying with that, and how I approach it is just go into that boundary, because that's something that I can do. Put that filter of Reiki up, so that kind of, I don't want to call it a psychic attack. It's not that, but those words don't stick to me. They go through my Reiki filter. They don't need to affect me. Work through my triggers later on, because I'm not going to say that it's not triggering sometimes. It is for sure. Work through my triggers later on, and just know that how they are and how they respond has nothing to do with me. Like, it has nothing to do with me. I can just go into my space of love and spread love on the planet, and use the Reiki energy to be love, be Reiki, and allow that to ripple out to them, regardless of their experience around any of it. But again, it's all in your choice and how you feel like engaging in that moment. And in that case, I would just say, if you do feel like engaging, because some of us are called to do that, and I think that's important too. If you do feel called to engage, just make sure you're well versed in it. No pun intended. Well researched in it. So that would be my response with it.
I wrote an article called Introducing Reiki to Medical Personnel that really gives you some great languaging on if you want to talk about it medically in sound bites. And that is on our website, reikilifestyle.com. And if you look under the Reiki Library tab, then the articles are there, and just search for that. But it gives you some great languaging to use if you need that. So yeah, and then I think I'll read what Taylor wrote too.
I just want to say real quick
go ahead.
too, Reiki helped me work through my religious trauma. I had quite a bit of religious wounding growing up. As Colleen said,
Yeah.
there was a lot of persecution towards me around this. So I did have a lot of self work to do, and I had a lot of work to work through all of this and through my religious trauma. I'm not in the place now and being able to do that now that I used to be. And I will say that one of the things about Holy Fire Reiki is that it really, I mean, all Reiki, but Holy Fire Reiki, it's kind of one of the fundamental things around it that really, really helped with that. And I'm able to be in this place now, but I did have to do a lot of self work originally on it, and work through that religious wounding around it, because it really affected my life for a long time. And all I could do at the time, all I could do is just work on myself first to get me to this place, to be able to respond in the way that I am able to respond now. But that took years. It took a while, and lots of forgiveness. Another ironic piece to it. So yeah.
Yeah, well, I think then there's a little bit more to say about it, because when you were talking about moving on from it, I think some of my religious trauma came not only from this lifetime, but I would say it was not so much with my family or even being raised Catholic, like a direct experience of it. I would say it was more the collective experience of it, and probably for me, a lot of past life trauma from it in the mix. And so when I was going through this with a particular family member, and I was so excited to talk to this person because I've always had a relationship with Jesus in all of my work, all my shamanic work. Jesus was always one of my spirit guides. And, I would work with him and Mother Mary too. And Mary Magdalene, and, as well as Kuan Yin and others. But I was just super excited to have this conversation, and found out that no, I didn't believe in Jesus the right way. And that when I believed in Jesus the right way, then I would be on the path, and then, everything that goes beyond that. So it really triggered me. And, I actually got things in writing about it from this family member. And so it really triggered me. And to make a long story short, this was over a process of me spinning it around in my head and having the conversation, defending myself. And in my defense of myself, she was always wrong and I was always right in my head. And when I would talk about it with my friends, she was always wrong and I was always right. So I always knew something was wrong there, like something's off, because that can't be exactly it. And so I was driving one day, and I think, some of you have already heard this part of the story, but I was driving one day and I had an actual voice, which only happens occasionally with me. And I was in the dialogue about how she was wrong and I was right, and defending myself in my head, having conversations in my head. And I was finally asking Jesus, like, what is this? Like, why do we argue over you? So I finally got an answer that I knew was the right answer. And I heard a voice and it said, well, the judgment you receive is equal to the judgment you have. I'm like, oh. So that started me on that journey. And of course, there it is too, judge not lest ye be judged. But it came to me in a way I could actually hear it, like, oh, the judgment I receive is equal to the judgment I have. And it was showing me that it didn't have to be about the same subject. So then I went on a giant journey of understanding judgment and trying to really understand it within myself. And so it was a huge spiritual pursuit for several years and took me through a lot of pathways. And here's the big piece that came through. Finally, it was like so hard. It was this really hard time of learning about it, and spiritually, and then in life experiences as well. And finally, one day I was like in this deep meditation and Reiki journey and just asking, seriously, get me out of this. Felt like just stuck in this mud of this topic. And judgment. And so I again heard another voice, and it said, well, actually what fixes that is gratitude. The energy of gratitude takes you out of judgment. And then that's when the gratitude ceremony downloaded in me during that experience, that Reiki journey. And I mean, it came to me in the totality of the centerpieces, the prayers, everything. I mean, it just dropped in a solid ceremony. And I've been working with it ever since. And then it was like, well, how do I get to gratitude when I'm not feeling it? And so then it was this whole process of understanding how gratitude is actually one of the life force energies of Reiki, and we can receive it, and we don't have to earn it. And maybe we don't even feel it, but it's internally there. And you recognize the internal gratitude that's there, even if the feeling is different in that moment. And that was a huge lesson that happened in one of the gratitude ceremonies. And it showed up that the energy of forgiveness is so that things don't have power over you anymore. And the energy of gratitude was to empower you with it. And the reason it's a life force energy, a Reiki energy, is that in the creation sources, however all this gets figured out, in the creation sources, it's well known that as a human being living in duality, there can be many life circumstances that deplete our gratitude and our experience of gratitude. So there's an actual energy for it, for us, that we can receive just by inviting it. And we can receive it just by inviting Reiki. We don't have to specifically, but I actually specifically ask for the energy of gratitude to flow into me and to fill me. And then for me, the way to gratitude, the easiest way is to notice beauty. So if I take just a moment and notice beauty, no matter where I am, like right now in my room, and it's a giant mess in here. And I opened my paper shredder, and I haven't cleaned it up yet. So anyway, but I can still be in gratitude for what is here. And then I love this topic that Robyn brought into the Distance Reiki share last month about noticing the glimmers. That those glimmers, I've really been wandering and wondering about that. Like, oh, a glimmer is even the easier step to noticing beauty, the easier step to gratitude, the easier step to, non-judgment. So anyway, that's a long process of a lot of years of navigating all of this very specifically from that experience that you're asking about, Joe. And so it's also been a years-long process. And what Robyn said about the nature of Holy Fire Reiki energy, Reiki also, so it's not just Holy Fire, but very specifically, part of the nature of Holy Fire energy is to heal that religious trauma, and then to also heal the reverse prejudice and reverse judgment that I have had for that opposite viewpoint, and moving into that acceptance of people's personal spiritual development is theirs. And it's a little bit harder with some of the political divisiveness that goes with it sometimes in the name of it, but individually, everybody's on their own journey. And I have to say, I have really moved out. Probably one of the reasons it's easier to just be in the freedom of, I don't have to engage in this, is because I really just don't have the same level of reverse judgment. Because I would have to say it used to be pretty powerful. And that's where I always knew something was off, because I was always right and they were always wrong. And so one of my fundamental core beliefs is there's always more than one right way. So doesn't make my way right either. And I think that another conversation that showed up, and I see you unmuted, Robyn, is again, the misunderstanding that we're not worshiping Reiki energy. And that's where a lot of the misunderstanding comes from. It's not worship. It's, it's an energy that promotes wellness. And so that's one of the misunderstandings, but I'll just leave that at that. So go ahead, Robyn.
I was just going to say too, that we're all going to have our own journey around this, and go into the Reiki energy and ask your guides. And it's going to show you your way around it. And that includes response, that includes healing, that includes revealing, empowerment. It includes all of that piece of showing you your way around it. I know it's always helpful to talk about these subjects, because it does help to also get different ideas and the way that people dealt with it, and all of that. And then at the same time, to just always remember that it's about your inner truth and about your inner guidance around these subjects, because they're really big subjects and subjects that we come across frequently. And on the other side of things, I would say science, because I've dealt with that as well. You have both sides of the spectrum around this same, like you said, kind of fundamentalism, Joe. And so you get to go into your truth around all of it, and how it works for you, and where your boundaries are at, and where your, need for discourse is as well. So that's just the last thing, or the, kind of the thing that I wanted to say.
I'll add one more quick thing. I know we have a lot of questions to get to. The same thing goes in reverse for me with them, to not say things to them that are, that kind of same reverse action is, to not try to challenge their way of thinking either. So, that's part of it too. But again, all of it is individual, as Robyn said, as we've been saying. So just as I don't know, different ways to think about it, as you said, we can talk about it. Yeah.
Okay. Good question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so interesting you asked it, Joe, because we've been talking
about it. Yeah.
And how we present it.
How Reiki too is a community. One of the things that people, especially like you said, Colleen, in those statistics, I hate to use this term, but in those older generations, that you do look, outside of the church, still looking for that community, still looking for that support within a community. Being able to talk about these subjects with each other is really helpful. And, how do you even, what is your relationship, as Colleen said, with God and Jesus and the deities? Those aren't the only ones, but the deities and ascended masters of the major religions. And how do you continue to have that relationship outside of a church that may or may not align with some of your beliefs in other areas with it? And so I do think that is one thing that Reiki does also offer people, is that it offers that community outside of institutions in that way, and institutional thinking in that way. So again, it's not a worship, it's just a way to connect into these higher frequencies and this spiritually guided ideas that many of us connect within those institutions, and are looking for it outside, as Colleen said, outside authority and into inner authority and inner truth. And as much as we can, and hopefully what we all work to, a love for all, a oneness, a connection, oneness. Okay. Well, so the next.
Oh, there's so much more to say.
I know.
Thinking
about this is whole couple hour podcast. Yeah. Especially since we've had one before, it would be good to maybe have another one that it's percolating. Okay, so this is actually a good question to segue into, because we talked about it. What is the difference between Holy Fire Reiki and Reiki? And this person has been a Karuna Reiki master for a long time. over 10 years and works with a lot of patients, cancer patients, and those in hospice care.
Well, there's the holy fire Reiki energy is an evolution or another energy also within the energy that you've been working with already for all these years. So, what we know now is that Usui Sensei continually talked about in my language, the continuing evolution of Reiki energy, and that it would continue to evolve. So in my own experience of it, having worked with the first 3 years with Usui Reiki with the 4 Usui symbols, the power symbol, mental, emotional symbol, the distance symbol, and then the master symbol, DKM, and then working for another 15 years, 12 years, I don't know exactly, with the Usui Tibetan Reiki, including Karuna Reiki in that lineage. And so when William Rand received the Holy Fire energy in 2014, it just was another evolution of it based on, from my perception, what we were ready to receive in the connection with life force energy and what it is. There's always the clarification that it's, not saying it's better than. It's another level of the energy, just like the animal Reiki energy that Robyn and I and Sue Strong and Pam Ellen LeBlanc wrote that manual and then discovered that there was a specific energy, the tree of life energy, that the animals were presenting to us for animal Reiki. And people, since the beginning of Reiki, have been working with the animals with the Reiki they have. So none of it is about that you have to receive these in order to evolve yourself. All of it is really about what you are guided to and called to. So there's a difference in the lineages, and the lineages are different pathways from Usui through Hayashi, and most often the lineage is going through Mrs. Takata and then one of her 22 Reiki masters, and then, flowing down through some of the other teachers. And if you are in that lineage where William Rand is, in part of your lineage, then, you might be working with the Usui Tibetan and the Karuna Reiki that also, was kind of part of that system with the Usui Tibetan Reiki. And then he received the Holy Fire Reiki energy. I would say in my own experience, there is a difference in the energy. And again, I want to qualify, I'm not claiming it to be better than, but for me, there is another level of it that is, I think, moving into such a current energy frequency that we are ready for. And that the Reiki energies and all these different energies can reply to us or respond to us according to what we ask for and what we're ready to receive. So there's quite a few differences in the actual training of Holy Fire Reiki and how the training part of it goes in the master classes and the Karuna master classes. The system itself is, there's quite a bit of evolution in the system where the energy has taught us that it wanted to do some of the techniques in different ways. Very much about giving you access to your direct connection with the energy through the attunements and the style of the attunements, and also very direct connection to your own inner experience with the energy. And again, not saying that the other energies don't do all that. It just is another perspective of it, another frequency of it. And then some of the other pieces of it that have come in is the awareness that it will continually evolve as we need it. And I've personally observed that through going through, Holy Fire. I received it within days after William, through him. And then the Holy Fire 2, Holy Fire 3 evolution, all the way through to the online evolution of it and the world peace evolution. And I'm always questioning it. Like, I'm always listening to the energy, like, why are you different? Why do we need this? And do we need this? And how come? I have a lot of the how comes. And I believe the questioning is really important. Like, if you feel skeptical, that's a good thing, because that means you're listening and you're questioning. And, when you're in these energy fields, it's important to be questioning. So I've been asking all along, and in my own experience of it, it is that freedom to continually develop into the next levels of frequencies we're ready to receive, and to go deeper within our own inner awareness. The unified consciousness part of the energy of Holy Fire to me is, as that came in with the animal Reiki and why that came in the way it did, that unified consciousness to me is like the foundational energy of it, is unifying our sense of self, that we are whole beings, and healing the belief in separation, and separate from the earth, separate from God, separate from the animals, separate from each other, but most of all, the feeling of being separated internally. And so what it does is it actually reveals your wholeness. And that's the powerful way of healing. So if you go back and listen to the energy of the invocation and how it fills you up with the energy, then it comes in, the energy itself with that compassion comes in and releases those layers that hide you from you because of the ways and worries of the world. And then it brings you back to your gifts, your talents, your abilities, your possibilities, your, like in this case, it was authentic intellect. Again, the other Reikis do that too. So this is not trying to qualify it as better than. So out of all of the energy, and I spent all these years in shamanic training as well, and shamanic experience and teaching and sessions and Reiki and the different Reikis, and I've received the other Reiki lineages, and I just really like the way this energy does the work. I like the energy itself. I like how it does the work, and I like that kind of evolution part of it. So, Robyn, I see you unmuted.
I was just going to say, all Reiki, all teachers, all practitioners is about whoever you're called to and listening to that guidance. So there's not a right or a wrong.
Yeah.
It's just about who you're called to and what feels like it's a match for you, what your heart calls to, what that deep listening inside calls to. So I think that at anything that makes us grow and evolve as humans, and like as Colleen said, that connection to that God spark or God self within, that divine self within, is all right. And somebody else may not have a connection to this energy, and that's okay. They're going to have a connection to a different lineage or different and energy isn't the right word because it's all Reiki energy, but to a different lineage and style. And I think too that I one of the things that about this lineage that helped, I was gravitated towards is the placement style of attunements and ignitions, where it's an inner experience. And we actually have a question about an experience that we'll read after this because it's actually related and was next on the list. So it works out. But I do like that style of attunement process. There's with it, there is also some equality that it brings in as far as the being able to do the attunements for some groups of people. So there's some things like that I like. Also, I had a lot of resistance to it because of the languaging of Holy Fire. So just even the name Holy Fire, Reiki, created resistance. We want to talk about religious wounding. That was a part of it. It does talk about Jesus and in that kind of languaging as well. And I had resistance to that. I will say that the energy helped me to heal that piece, to become more accepting and understanding that relationship and who Jesus actually was. And even at the same time, I still don't really work with Jesus as one of my main dudes. I have a different relationship in the way that I feel about it. I'm not triggered by that a concept and idea, and understand that it's also helped a lot of people's relationship with him. And I think that's really beautiful. But the energy also helped me to heal that within myself. And I think that that's a really beautiful thing. And kind of going back to Joe's question, it's what's helped me in the world as a person because of that piece of it. But just moving through that resistance around it, and not saying that the person that asked this question has resistance, it's just my own journey around it, and receiving the energy, then also healed that part of it within me. And I think that's a beautiful piece of the energy too.
Yeah, I used to always do Reiki and say, move me past my resistance. Could I just be on the other side of my resistance?
And also for me, it was like, don't mention Jesus. Don't you do it. And so it didn't change the fact that it's not one of my main guides, just to say it a little bit clearer, but I don't have the same triggers and the same resistance with it because of this energy and because of the healing that has come out of this energy. So
Well, it takes you into your own relationship.
exactly.
So whatever that is for you, and the languaging that you use about it, because Reiki doesn't require a particular belief system, any particular religious belief, but if you have those, it will take you deeper into yours. So in my relationship with Jesus, it healed a lot of what I was told I was supposed to believe into my own relationship and direct relationship, and the freedom to choose that relationship. And Mother Mary, I didn't have quite the resistance there as I did. But so anyway, and then because Jan's here, one of the other things that I always say is, really whatever gets you there. And I reference that because I always talk about my brother-in-law who gets there by riding his bike for really long distances, like around the country. And so, we want to really make sure, and also in all this discussion about the church, that, for me, it has taken me into a deeper relationship with these beings that I grew up with and loved as a child, and returned me to kind of that childhood experience of Jesus, of Mary, as, they were the beings that I knew as a kid, and who I talked to in the middle of the night. So, but I feel like I have that more direct relationship. But also, as a shamanic practitioner all these years, I work with many people who have no relationship with those beings the same way as I don't have some with others. And then also remembering that Reiki can entirely be spoken of through biofield and electromagnetic fields and frequency and energy. We happen to have a kind of spiritual perspective, but I will tell you, in all of my spiritual perspective, I just like it. So I don't know what the true nature of it all is. I like the way I like thinking about it. I like those relationships, and of course, because of all of my work with spiritual beings and what we think of as the unseen, from my relationship with fairies, with power animals, with trees, with other things completely differently than these beings. But I also like still having the freedom to have those relationships. I didn't have to give those relationships up to have my own connection. But that took a little while to navigate through. I had to do some of my own, the very first journey I ever did in my shamanic journey, the first thing I did was went to Jesus to see how much trouble I was in. Is this a serious thing I shouldn't be doing? And how much trouble? Because if you're wrong, it's really serious. And so that was the very first thing that I did, was go. And of course, he's got such a great sense of humor. He was just chuckling. He was like, "You're fine. Do it. Just do it." So
Can I say a quick thing about holy fire, just very quickly? I know I took up enough time today. I just harken back to the old days of the Attunements. It was so cool, all these ritualistic things that we did. I was thinking about all this, but of course there was always that little fear in the background. Did I get it right? Did I do it right? There was that little bit. Did I blow on the person? Did I do this on the neck properly? All these little things, which were really, really cool. And it gave you a sense of really being a part of something. But I guess I'm grateful that, with Holy Fire Reiki, and I guess this helps answer her question, that margin for error is kind of now out. We don't have to worry about that with the energy, taking care of it. Correct me if I'm wrong. And also, I think with virtual Reiki, I think the Holy Fire provides us the wattage that we need to conduct virtual Reiki. Well, those are my thoughts anyway.
Yeah, I like that too, because it is also, here's the thing, is that the rituals are really what connects people. It's all about how we connect to the energy, not what brings in the energy to us. It's all about how we connect into the energy. For some people, that is, and as Colleen said, for Eric, it's about riding his bike, how we get there to those spiritual experiences. It's funny, I was listening to a podcast about this morning. She was talking about long distance runners, like these 100-mile runners, and how they get to this space after being in that space for a while. And anyway, but those rituals are what people are attracted to, or the really strict pieces of Reiki are what people are attracted to. That's what helps them. That's what gets them there. And all of it is right. And for some of us, Holy Fire is right. For some of us, Usui Tibetan is right. For some of us, Jikiden Reiki is right. For some, I could go on and on. Rainbow Reiki is right. So there's all these different ways and how we get there. And, with all of them, they can help with our relationships with, religious wounding, things like that. So I don't mean to say that that's exclusive to Holy Fire. And as Colleen said, it did help me get to a place to see how beautiful those relationships are for people. But that's just, it's all not one right way, it's many right ways. It's again, that what we're moving into this new age, that there's many right ways to get to the oneness.
I love it.
All right. So the next question is that how is Holy Love Reiki experience different than a Reiki treatment or sending Karuna or, sending Reiki? Symbols are not mentioned in the experience.
So to explain the question for anybody who's not quite understanding, in Holy Fire Reiki, there are what is called experiences, and they are a guided meditation with Reiki energy that is going to guide you to a particular place in the higher frequencies of Reiki so that you go into a deep inner experience. They also could similarly be like a journey or a Reiki journey. So there's lots of ways to access your own inner consciousness, and this is one way that we work with in Holy Fire Reiki, is these called experiences. So the Holy Love experience is a particular one where a person is guided to the river of life, and the light reflects off of the waters and into the eyes all the way to the soul. And that process of the guidance to get to that place is, probably 10 minutes. So now the light is reflecting off of the river of life. You're in this spiritual location, and the energy and frequency is very high. And so then you go into your own inner experience with it. These can be done for people without Reiki training. They can be used in, like we can do them here. They can be used in a session. They are, I would call, a technique of delivering Reiki, and with a specific intention of helping people get to their own inner experience. That inner experience could be falling asleep. If you're using the Holy Love experience as part of a Reiki session. So the person might fall asleep. They might go into a, what we call the gap, which is you're not asleep and you're not awake. You're in that in-between state, but it's very, just like nothing else is going on. Sometimes people have fantastical experiences, and by that I mean mystical, magical experiences. Sometimes people experience all color. Sometimes people are in total mind chatter through it. Like, your mind goes into the blah, blah, blahs, and you're like, stop, I want to be in this special place. But the mind chatter comes in to show you all the different mind chattery things going on in your day. So lots of different experiences that people can have. To directly answer your question with how is it different, it really is a delivery of the energy. So it's just simply a method through the guided meditation of connecting the person with the energy to have their own inner experience. Also, you as the practitioner are often in that experience as you are providing the experience or facilitating it. It's also something that you can do in a group. So, and you could do it where over the phone. You can do it, where a person isn't sitting down receiving Reiki or lying down receiving Reiki. So the experiences, there's quite a few different ones, and they are guiding you to different spiritual locations. And one of the Holy Fire concepts is the realm of the 12 heavens. And in the third heaven, which is where I perceive the energies of these experiences to be coming from, is that you are actually in an enlightened realm, and you are no longer in the duality. You are now in a non-dual realm. The third heaven is a non-dual realm. So you have your experiences from that frequency of the energy, and it entrains you. It actually pulls your energy into it. But just the short, simple way is that it is the The experiences also delivers the Reiki energy if you're using it in a session in that way. Same with doing it for yourself, and it's delivering the energy for you. And then there is the additional intention of it, or perhaps result of it, is that it can take you deeper into your own inner experience. You can set an intention beforehand, and what's your inner experience of that intention? It might be about healing, it might be about empowerment. And we do those kinds of Reiki journeys here pretty often. So if you go to our YouTube channel or our podcast channel and look for any of the titles that say guided Reiki journey, those are all similar to these experiences, but there are specific experiences that are taught in the Holy Fire Master classes. And the meditation is in the manual. So how to do it all is in the manual too. We also have experiences in the animal Reiki classes. So it's another part of how the energy is, that we work with the energy, that is one of the evolutions that I'm speaking of in Reiki.
What's the appropriate explanation to give a client who asks for an attunement without taking a Reiki class? So I'm not sure if this is that they're wanting an attunement just, or you've come across the situation where an attunement would be helpful for a person so that they can use it in just their daily life. And Colleen, you can talk about some of those types of situations, or if this is someone who just wants an attunement because they don't see the point in taking a Reiki class. So I'm not sure. So maybe if you can DM me which you mean on this, or maybe we can talk about both or answer both.
Answer probably both.
Okay, great.
So, one of the things to know with Reiki, and we can go to the historical basis of it, back to Usui Sensei, he attuned over 2,000 people in 4 years, and he gave people Reiki attunements in all different, using different techniques as he was determining how he would share Reiki with people. And he trained 22 or 20 at the Shinpuden level, which was the level to achieve the full mastery within that Reiki could bring Anshin Ditsume. So we know there's a historical basis for attuning people without the training. So it depends on what the reason is for it. Like I say, like Robyn said, if it's just because they don't want to go through the training, but they're going to use it in a way that they're going to need the training, then you would want them to take the training. When I give people attunements outside of class, and I have done many of them outside of class, where it's just the attunement, is typically for health reasons where they need the energy, and it's not about needing all the training, the deeper understanding of Reiki. It's about they have a health situation. Perhaps they can't even sit through a class, but they need the energy. Or perhaps they're the caregiver of someone with that needs the energy. Or perhaps there's a reason in their life that that Reiki is going to benefit them, but it really is going to be just for them, or maybe a close family member, but they're not really planning to be a practitioner. So I can tell you it works, because my original Reiki was, I had about 3 hours of training for Reiki I, Reiki II, and Reiki Master. And so I know that there's a difference between, are you connecting them with the energy? Because the word Reiki means the energy. Then we have the system that the training connects you to the how to. How do you use the energy? How do you connect to it? So in the times that I have given people attunements, have been, maybe it's even in a session where they just need something to help themselves and they need to be able to do self-Reiki, or perhaps they're the caregiver of somebody, like one man that I know, his wife had late stages of cancer and he had 4 children, under like the age of 12. He didn't have time to come to a class. He just needed the energy to help himself and his family and for his caregiving. So that would be one example. I have done that with my grandkids, where I've given them just the attunements, my nieces and nephews when they're kids, and they just don't even have the attention span for the full thing. All my nieces and nephews that I gave attunements to as teenagers, every one of them came back for Reiki training, where they received a certificate. So I do not give people a certificate who have not had the Reiki training, but there are plenty of times that I give people Reiki attunements because that's what they need and it will make a difference in their life. And like I say, there is a historical basis for that. You may get different answers from other teachers or other Reiki practitioners. But yeah, there are just plenty of times that it's, the energy is there to be used, and understanding the connection to the energy, and then understanding the connection to the training. What do they need to know about how and why and when, and everything to know about the energy itself? That's the training. But the attunement gives you a connection to the energy. And
Awesome.
maybe they do want just a Reiki treatment, not knowing the difference between training and treatment. So that then would be part of my questioning, to get clarification from them.
Just some tips on somebody who's new to teaching Reiki 1 and 2. If you have any of that, that was one of the questions.
Tips for teaching Reiki 1 and 2?
Yeah, just tips that maybe are outside of the manual. I always like your tip on bringing your heart.
Yeah, I was going to say, the first tip I would have is just go for it.
Yeah.
Just do it. And particularly if you're working within either the Usui Tibetan or the Holy Fire lineage, we have really good manuals and outlines that can help you know what to teach and when, and also provide the manuals for your students so you're not reinventing the wheel. So that's the first step, is to know that you have the tools that you need. And that is, I'm going to just speak of it from, how we do the work. We have an outline and we have the manual that matches the outline. So we know what we're going to teach in a day. At the same time, it's still going to be your own flavor. So the words I use around it, because I have such a shamanic perspective, is going to be maybe different than a person with a medical perspective, or a person with just, more like Reiki, very specific. Here's this tool, here's this technique, and here's how you do this. So everybody you will have your own flavor. And I think it's important to know that you get to use your own languaging and how you perceive things, because the Reiki is orchestrating those students with you. You are meant to be their teacher. And even if you feel like, I don't know if I know everything, you learn it by doing it. But also what I always say is, what people care about is that you bring your heart and that you are authentic. That's the most important piece. The rest of it, you can always say, if you don't know the answer to a question, you can say, you know what, let me jot that down and ask somebody. Or you can also say, well, let's listen to Reiki and ask the question and see what answers we get. But that's not the most important thing that people come to you for. They do want to receive Reiki. They want to have discussion, and they want to know, how do I use it? That's there. But it's not all about like, do you know everything there is to know about the history? Do you know everything about even some of the techniques that are in the manual? It's okay to always say, I'm still learning this, or here it is. And sometimes there are some of the techniques, like one of the Japanese Reiki techniques, Jeki Kiri Jokaho, that I just don't relate to it. And I'm comfortable saying that. It's like, yeah, it's not my favorite. So here it is. It's in the book. This is how you use it. And, and then sometimes I don't even talk about, I don't want to influence, what other people think about different techniques. So I may not say that, but most important thing is to bring your heart. In Reiki I, they are going to receive their first attunement to it. In Holy Fire, we call that attunement a placement. It's just a style of an attunement, still an attunement. And they are not receiving the symbols. Other lineages, they might be receiving the first power symbol. Not right or wrong, just differences in the way the lineages are teaching it. So in our lineage, in the first one, they're receiving the attunement to the energy overall, but not the specific symbols. The next important thing that they need to know is how to use it. So typically we start with self-Reiki, and we can show them hand positions that Mrs. Takata taught, and we can also show them that they can just place their hands wherever they're guided and allow themselves to receive Reiki. And I do make sure that I spend time with people experiencing the energy through self-Reiki. In Reiki II, the most common things people really care about is that they receive the attunement to the symbols. That's going to be the power symbol, the mental emotional symbol, and the distance symbol. Some of the information about it, and truthfully, as you guys know that have received those attunements, you can only give so many words around what those symbols do, because it's still going to always be a direct relationship between that person and the symbol itself. They will ask different questions that you would share. And so really it's as important to let them know that they will be experiencing their relationship with the energy of the symbols themselves. And then how to do work on others. So in Reiki II, that's when we go through, how do you give a Reiki session? What is a complete Reiki session from start to finish? Talking again about hand positions, the ones Mrs. Takata brought in, the foundation treatment, and then also how to use intuitive hand positions. So people are taught the techniques of some of the standardized way we use Reiki on others. So until or if they develop their intuitive idea of where to place their hands, we teach also the intuition style, so both hand positions. But one of the most important things that people really want to know in Reiki II is distance Reiki. So what you want to make sure that you do is leave plenty of time for practice time. There's always a lot of discussion and a lot of questions and sharing and things like that that go into it too. Again, just be authentic. The other one piece that I'm going to give you a tip, always give yourself enough time for the class. So we typically schedule 9 to 6:30, and with an hour for a break and lunch and a couple of breaks during it. And even if you think I only have one student, I don't need that much time, a lot of times you run right into the end of time of the day, right to the edge of it, because so many different things come up in a class. However, if you're complete for the day and it's appropriate to end early, everybody can feel that. Everybody knows it's complete for the day and you can leave early. It's so uncomfortable to be running late, and people are not happy about leaving late. So give yourself the full amount of time. And if you're complete for the day, you can end early. And that's always comfortable. And I have never had anybody think, oh no, we should run all the way through every last minute. I rarely end early because, as you can see, I am for sure one of many words. So there's always a lot that we cover, so many things that are outside of what's in the manual. But also, when I first started teaching, I just followed that outline, like step by step by step by step, and just did it. And I really relied on that manual, and that's totally okay to do. Now that I've been teaching for so long, now it's all flexible and fluid. But then there are many classes where it's still the same, just, 1 through 15 on day 1, and I do them in order. And then other times things are out of order.
Do we have genetic memory?
Oh, I think so.
Oh, definitely we do. It's actually even been proven by science that we have genetic memory.
So like the memory of my parents are in me?
Yeah. In your DNA. Colleen, wasn't it you telling me about that study with the mice and the perfume?
That was probably Monique.
So there was this study, and I could be getting it slightly incorrect. But there was this study with mice where they were given the scent of lavender, maybe. Anyways, some scent. I forget which scent it was. And if anybody knows what it is, you can put it in the chat. And I think it was, and during the time of this, they were, there was pain that was given to them at the same time that they were smelling this scent. And it was, I want to say 2 generations later, that the mice had fear of the scent of lavender. They had never smelled lavender. They had never smelled lavender before, but they had the genetic fear of this scent. And it might be different than lavender, but I want to say that's what it is. So it might be wrong. But it was a scent, something like that. And they had fear of it 2 generations later. So, and there's multiple studies like that, talk about genetic memory.
So
Because I know somebody who was afraid of the water, and I go, well, you got 4 feet of water at an adult. Oh, my mother was always afraid of the water. So I said, well, was your mother afraid of the water, or did she put that on you? So she says,
well, that's always the thing with some of it. Is it
okay,
nature, nurture? I don't know if there's studies around that. I was just using the study around the generational one that I knew of. But there is some of that you just don't, I don't know the answer, honestly, to whether it was placed on you or whether it was through the actual genetics of it. But genetic memory is definitely something that's there.
So in that, part of what Reiki really does is accesses the gifts of that genetic memory also. A lot of times people are aware of the healing that needs to happen in it, but it's also contains the gifts that we have. what I've also seen in that same way is that we have soul's memory that actually can empower our genetic memory as well. And I personally have a lot of genetic memory. I've always had a lot of genetic memory.
So
Some of it is genetic, some of it is past life, but yeah, I'm very aware of it. Not everybody is connected in, like in my case, where I know I've been in this lineage for lifetime after lifetime. Many people that I work with have been in the lineage they're in once. So not everybody, incarnates into a lineage that they've been in or continue to repeat. Sometimes it's a one time or a couple of time, experience of the soul, given that, if you believe in other lifetimes.
that I understand about, my other lifetimes, but I'm saying like stuff from my mother, my father, my grandparents, and it's like, I mean, I know there's addictions that carry through in the genes, because I'm a big one for that, and it took me many years to really battle alcohol and smoking. So, and I, like, thank God it's so many years that, I'm away from that. But I mean, I know it's in there. It's like, go away.
One of the fun ones Robyn just recently brought to my attention is, and we can make this quick, Robyn, but food noise is a whole term. And there's a genetic, like, thought process of thinking about food all the time, because not everybody does.
Oh, yeah.
And there can be a genetic component to that of if you are in a lineage where food was an issue, scarcity of food was an issue, farming, backgrounds. And so the term food noise is defined as when you think about food all the time, not based on whether you're hungry or not. It's just a constant subject. And so since I have that, I just admit it, I have that. It has been so helpful to just go, it's fine. It's just food noise. So
that's really funny, because my father's father owned 7 restaurants in Manhattan. And I only heard this like once, but I wound up taking hotel restaurant management. I mean, I could cook for an army. Cook for myself? No. Delivery.
Yeah. That's a whole other
okay.
subject that we don't have time for, but yeah, I mean,
okay, thanks.
I
No,
look
that
at
helps.
my genetic memory. It's crazy sometimes what I remember.
I'll come cook for you, Colleen. No
Yeah,
worries.
you can explore it through Reiki and journeying and meditation. All of these things you can explore it. It is you can also look it up scientifically. I think it's probably explained and understood a little differently than we might explain and talk about through these modalities.
Through metaphysics instead of physics.
yeah. But so, being careful there of like not putting it, explaining it through scientific means, but it's fascinating that some of that is actually catching up to some of these ways that we already know about. But it's ancestral memory, it's ancestral history. You'll hear that term a lot in this work, ancestral history, and exploring that, healing that. And then also as Colleen said, what are your gifts from ancestral history too? So
more homework.
Yeah, right. It's fun though.
Wandering and wondering.
Yep. Well, so you know what? We are actually at the end of time. I looked down at my clock and it's 11:11. Kara, I did see your question. That's a really big subject. She was asking about how combining Reiki and shamanism. And we could talk about that for like, a whole couple of hours.
Well, she should go back and also listen to Karen Hefner's podcast. Is a
Idea.
good idea too.
So we released a podcast with Karen Hefner. It's on our podcast platforms. It's on our YouTube. And she is a shamanic practitioner, a longtime colleague and friend of Colleen. And they talk a lot about those concepts. If you have a specific question, just email us. We can answer it, or if it's
Yeah, or let's put it in the next.
and we can put it on the next
Q&A
one too. Just
Yeah.
because it's we'd like to have time to talk about it. But we can put you first on the list for next time if you would like to discuss it further.
Yeah, there's a whole lot about that subject.
It's kind of like
And one of my favorite ones to talk about.
yeah,
So,
exactly. It's fun.
yeah.
All right.
Well, thank you everyone for being here. We'll do what we call opening the circle. And we've been talking in our distance Reiki shares about some of the spiritual terms. So in the context of opening the circle, when we did the invocation, that closed the circle. So it brings us all into this energy and creates a container of Reiki energy for you to be in if you're able to be in it, during this time. And then also now we open the container. So we open the circle and Reiki stays with each of us. Whatever guides you work with stay with you. But now we also open us and anyway. All right. So the way we're going to do that, just bring your hands into Gasho. If you can, some of you can't that are listening, and just look inside and say thank you to you. You are here to hear you, your inner truth, your authentic intellect, your well-being, contributing to wellness in the world, which is why we join together and we say thank you to our divinely ordered circle, those who are here today and those who listen later, as we are here because we care deeply, love deeply, and contributing wellness into the world. Thank you to the enlightened ones and the Reiki energies that assist us and that we can talk with and listen to and engage with. And then again, thank you to those teachers who came before us to bring us these ways, descendants who come after. We are so very honored to be here in this lineage of light bringers today. Thank you. We open our hearts and receive this gift of love. And so it is. Thank you. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for being here. Lots of love to everyone. And all of those who listen later, thanks for listening later too. We appreciate everyone, our whole community.
Lots of love to you all. We are definitely an extended family.
ReikiLifestyle.com is where the info is. So, all right. Oh yeah, and a YouTube channel too. So, all right. Bye
Thanks,
now.
everyone. Bye.